What's important for you to know about Elenin is that in its projected orbital trajectory, it has already demonstrated a tremendous amount of what we call orbital eccentricity, which means it's not behaving nicely. It's not driving in a straight line. It's been twisting and turning in its path thus far, which makes the projection of its trajectory quite difficult, quite sketchy. And that is to say, it has not yet even had its major impact, the thing which could have the greatest impact on its further trajectory, which is when it makes its closest approach to the sun, which is scheduled to occur on September the 10th. So yes, about 2 months away is when Elenin might very well get another massive or major or even minor, but yet in minor terms, could still have an impact on Earth and or these other objects. September 10th is when it makes its closest approach to the sun. And then October 16th is when it reaches, in a projected sense, its closest approach to the Earth. And once again, along the route, its interaction with the sun when it makes that closest path might very well have a tremendous impact or change in its further orbital trajectory. And how do we know this? Well, NASA has never had a chance to watch how Elenin behaves before. It's believed to be an 11,000-year period comet, if in fact it is a comet anyway. There are those of you who know, and you've done the research, that Elenin might very well be a planetary body. It might be a rogue, free-floating planet. There are those of you who also know it might very well be a brown dwarf star. And there's also other speculation where your humble host doesn't dare to tread at this point until we have more information, perhaps before we try to connect some of those dots. But those of you who've researched Elenin, you know exactly what your humble host is referring to now. Getting back to Apophis. Apophis, discovered June 19th, 2004. After it received its permanent naming, Apophis is the Greek name of the ancient Egyptian enemy of Re. Some pronounce it Ra, but it is pronounced Re. Apep, the uncreator, the destroyer, the serpent that dwells in the eternal darkness of the Duat, which is Earth's middle, and tries to swallow Re during his nightly passage. Apep is held at bay by Set, the ancient Egyptian god of chaos. Folks, when you start using my and your taxpayer dollars to call missions Osiris the King and to name asteroids Apophis, and you start making these connecting points when all along the route you are lying to us and you are keeping information that you have discovered by way of our taxpayer dollars, which have paid your research, your salaries, and your toys. When you lie to me and when you give me nothing but scraps from the table in context to what you actually know about these objects, and then you have the temerity to give them these names, NASA, you are not operating in the dark. There are those who know more than you think they know. And this information will be made known. Now, listeners of the Crimson Pill, I apologize. Your humble host from time to time is stoked with the fire of emotions that comes from paying for all of these things that are done to us, by us, at us, around us. And yet they think that we're not responsible enough to handle this information, despite the fact that we are the only ones paying the bill. And in fact, every dollar that is funded into this research is dollars that are borrowed upon our own heads and those of our children and grandchildren. We all know this despicable financial mess that we're in, and we know how we got here. And it's not by accident, it's by design. And I grow weary, and I refuse to tolerate being lied to and then having names like this splashed over these missions. NASA, you're on warning. You can change the title of that mission as easily as you fire up your word processors, and you should change it, and you had better change it. Osiris the King will not be tolerated by the people that pay your bills. Folks, we turn our attention back to the asteroid which passed right through our own earthly neighborhood last week. It was the asteroid they called 2011 MD, which passed by us on, Monday, June 30th, and yet had been only discovered on Wednesday, June 22nd. Sorry, I think I quoted the wrong date there just a moment ago. Yeah, Monday, June 27th is when it made its closest approach to Earth, but at NASA's own behest and admission, it had only been discovered on Wednesday, June 22nd. What they're telling you is, what they're saying to you is, that objects that are large, and in this particular case, asteroid 2011 MD, was considered to be small enough not to have a significant impact, that it should break up upon its entry into Earth's atmosphere, yada, yada. But there's a lot of information about those mechanics as well that they are not very forthcoming about, and I don't have the time to enter into now. Folks, I'm going to have to wind things short before our next commercial break, and when we return, I wish that I had the time to get to so many of these other topics, but I would very desperately like to take at least my first call from the listening audience. So please, folks, call 1-800-313-9443. Your humble host is waiting anxiously to hear from the listeners of the Crimson Pill and of the RBN Network. Folks, stay tuned after this break.
He is the creator and sustainer of all the worlds, whether those worlds are known or unknown to mankind.
And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Crimson Pill. I am your host, Antonin Fiore, and we're talking about NASA's cover-ups and Elenin's friends. I quickly want to make you aware of a NASA internal memo that was issued June 10th, 2011, regarding family and personal preparedness. This was sent out by Charles Bolden, who is the administrator of NASA. You can also jump on the web and quickly do some research as to Charles Bolden himself, and there's a video announcement that he had issued for internal employees and NASA contractors as well. It is pertaining to preparedness in the events of emergencies. And again, I wish I had time to cover the entire memo, but we do have Cheryl from New York who is waiting on the line, so I'll just cover this very quickly before we bring Cheryl into the program. Family and personal preparedness plans are key to protecting our families and communities during potential emergencies such as fires, floods, earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes, terrorist attacks, and other unforeseen catastrophes. They've ramped up their promotional messages about preparedness in the event of these emergencies. And at the same time, one last consideration. Yes, I've talked about Elenin, Apophis, Comet Honda, asteroid YU-55. But I also need to make you aware that some of the potential hazard that we may be facing comes from the sun itself. And in next week's program, we're going to make a further exposition of that using information directly from NASA once again. Cheryl from New York, are you still on the line?
Yes, I am. I had to call as soon as I heard what you were talking about.
Well, Cheryl, welcome to the program. Thank you for your call. And what's on your mind?
Yeah, well, I was aware about Charles Bolden, his announcement, and at the same time, NASA was also putting out information that there is nothing to worry about and just harmless comet. But yet they name it, like you say, these scary names, and not to mention that they've always lied. I would not ever believe one thing that NASA ever said. I mean, I don't believe the pictures that they tell us, from Hubble. They can't even get us a decent picture of the surface of the moon, but yet they're trying to tell us that they can take pictures 2 million light years into space.
You're so right, Cheryl. Yes, you're quite right. And in fact, your intuition is guiding you accurately. Cheryl, they have found tremendously interesting things on the moon that have been classified information from the moment they found them. They know tremendously fascinating things about our solar system, the right functioning of its mechanics, astrophysics, all of which has been deemed classified as national security from the moment. So your intuition is right on track, Cheryl.
Well, what I'm thinking maybe, I do believe that our government has amazing technology that they're keeping a secret from us.
Yes.
But I don't think it's anything like it's not like Star Trek. It's not like, I don't think that they can even get more than a couple hundred miles out of our atmosphere. I don't think they're able to do that.
So, Cheryl, is it your feeling that we did not make it to the moon physically? Is that your feeling?
Oh, definitely. There's no possible way. Because if you look at the pictures, like that goofy contraption that they tell us, landed on the moon, that lunar lander thing with the spider legs and the big pie plates and gold foil and everything, and the roofing paper all torn. I mean, and they didn't even have computers back then.
Well, Cheryl, keep in mind that what you're describing there, the Apollo mission and that lander, keep in mind that that's only the public version of the space program. And last week I was reading directly from the charter of the Space Administration when NASA was created. It was known at that time, you can see the information directly from the charter, that our military program, our secret space program, was already in operation long before that time. Cheryl, we're just about out of time. Do you have 20 seconds, maybe, final thought?
Well, just that I think that that they're the biggest hoax and scammer operation that has ever come along at NASA. They're all Freemasons. They're all occultics. They want us to believe that aliens are coming because they're trafficking with demons.
Cheryl, Cheryl, I'm so sorry I have to cut you short. Please call in next week. We're going to pick up this conversation then, all right? Thank you so much, folks. Please tune in next week. You'll hear Cheryl and I continue our conversation.